Welcome again to Heavy Wireless Podcast, part of the Packet Pushers Podcast Network. My name is Keith Parsons, and today we're talking about cows, wows, COLTs. Yes, I'm with Mark Houtz today, and today we're talking about different ways to bring cellular technology into the Wi-Fi world. This morning I read a post that you made titled Cow, talking about, what was that cow?
The evolution of a cow, the cellular on wheels concept.
And the idea is there's a lot of other terms for cow.
Yes. There's cows and colts and cods, and cow has about 5 different names. And
okay, what's a COLT?
So COLT stands for Cell on Light Transit. If you ever seen channel, a news van or something like that, those are typically called COLTs. If you have cellular towers on them. The cow is more of the generic term for all of these. It's kind of an overlapping term. It stands for cell on wheels. Or it also stands on cell on wings if you're flying it on a drone or other type of aerial vehicle. COD is kind of the same thing, cell on drone. WOW is wireless on wings or wheels or whatever you want to let's stand for.
Focus today on WOWs, wireless. There's a lot of things you can use wireless for, and one of the things you mentioned in your article was ITDRC. Mm-hmm. And have you worked with them before?
I've talked to them. I actually have not traveled out to one of their events.
So our WPC conference has sponsored ITDRC a couple of years. They go and support when there's a disaster. Mm-hmm. They go and bring in the infrastructure side of it. So one of the things that you mentioned in your article, and we can talk about it here, is one of the uses of a COL or a COLT on light truck or light transit is when there's a disaster and the cell towers go down, how do you get communications for the people there? But it doesn't have to be a disaster. Your article mentioned it's also something you could bring into a school. So what's the cow when it comes to schools?
So in the school use case, we're looking at cow standing for classroom on wheels, another version of the term cow. Basically, we're looking to bring the technology to the students, rural, sometimes urban, depending, doesn't matter, but to help build some interest in the technology, in the industry, and engineering, and help some kids kind of get excited about the technology, because we talk about this technology with kids and they get super excited being able to stand up their own cellular network, like their cell phone, like their cell towers. They like go crazy over that idea.
It works. So what are some of the different backhaul options that are available for that wireless side of the WOW?
So you have your standard, just plug in a cable if you're near a building. That's your standard way. You can use a cellular backup, so AT&T, Verizon, any of your cellular carriers.
And that would be data only.
Yes, data only for your backhaul, as well as you can use Starlink, or if you have fiber, you can use fiber, copper. Which there's any way you can connect to a site right now, you can use it. You
could do a point-to-point Wi-Fi back as a client or as a dedicated point-to-point.
Yep.
So you need some internet connection to this box. Mm-hmm. Your example you talked about, you actually used a trailer. I mean, that's more than just a little box.
Yeah, so I work with Murray City School Districts. Their IT director is a good buddy of mine. And he kind of started this whole private cellular in the classroom idea. And so a couple years ago, I was reading articles about using cell on wings during hurricanes, and I had the thought of I was thinking about, I wonder what a cell on wheels or cell on wings use case could be for education. So it got us thinking, contemplating about different ideas, and that's where we came up with the idea. Once you have an idea, all it takes is just some perseverance. And so I started playing with one on the back of my Jeep, and then, as I've written about in multiple blog posts, but beyond that, eventually it turned into this idea of a trailer that has racks, it has a generator. It has everything to run a mobile site. You just have to bring a backhaul, whether it's Starlink or Cellular or other options. And then it's got a mast on it, a tower, so you can put radios up on a tower and broadcast in whichever direction you need. And it's all in one place. It makes standing up these networks super quick, super easy. A couple years ago, we went out to the Salt Flats, and it took us 2/3 of the day just to get gear set up, just standing up our own towers on the flats. This, you can drive up, stand the tower up, turn on the radios, and you're up and running.
So you could also use it just like in the parking lot of a school.
Yep.
Say there's a disaster, you can't go in the school. They still need, you just plug in and go from there. Absolutely,
yeah. You can put it in. Basically, your options are almost limitless. A little bit limited by the technology, like CBRS is U.S. based only. So if you're doing that level, you're kind of limited in the United States. But if you can get Spectrum, you can go anywhere in the world and do this. There are companies, all your carriers have these. They all have them that they take on sites, and they bring them up during disasters and things when they're needing extra capacity at events. They'll bring these on site and stand them up and provide extra coverage in areas to help kind of build the network out and maintain things.
Greetings, podcast listener. If you'd like a simple way to stay on top of the flood of IT news, new products, and tech trends, check out Network Break from the Packet Pushers. Every week we strip out the marketing speak from product launches, press releases, and executive pronouncements to figure out what's really going on. Our twin goals are to keep you informed and not waste your time. As one listener said, I get to hear about news that I otherwise would have missed. It's like pressing the easy button. So press the easy button for yourself by listening to Network Break at packetpushers.net or on your favorite podcatcher.
Well, one of the things that I was working with some folks over at Ameriband, where they are doing PassPoint on a broad scale. You could take this same little trailer with any backhaul and run Ameriband's PassPoint, which then answers AT&T, Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, Google Fi, and give kind of like a neutral host DAS also wherever you just happen to drop this in.
Yeah. It's really limited by your imagination. The technologies are, with PassPoint and these different technologies, we're getting to a point where the technology doesn't matter. Where all we care about is that the device is connected, whether it's over cellular, whether it's over Wi-Fi, PassPoint, or just making sure the devices connect. I've heard of sites down in Arizona where they had an event. They brought in some of these cows, stood up a mast, and they had cellular connectivity for the event. Event went off well, and then they pulled the stuff down and drove away. And it really just comes down to your imagination of what's the use case, where's the need, what's the technology, and once you have all those little pieces in place, you really can build these networks that provide capacity and coverage where you need them, wherever you need them.
So it doesn't have to be a disaster; it could be just a special event.
Yep.
What about for a classroom?
So for a classroom, field trips. We've looked at the idea of field trips. You go out to a field and have some type of special event that you're running there with students. Could be multiple schools, could be a single school, could be a single classroom. But you bring this cow and you stand the tower up, and you have connectivity. And the students can be walking around in a field or something, doing different experiments with, say, an iPad or whatever technology you want, being able to watch videos and do these different things in a field where there's previously no connectivity. It was pen and paper only. This opens up some ideas and some concepts that are really powerful to extend the classroom out into the world where the students can learn on site.
Well, I know that the state of Utah has been pushing and supports EduRoam not only in the universities but also in K-12. Could you use the same thing and have a EduRoam SSID at that same location?
Absolutely. EduRoam, all it is 802.1x authenticated network that is just relayed across the world to wherever the host server is. So at the university or K-12 level. And so you could absolutely stand up a Wi-Fi network with running the EduRoam SSID. Students or anybody who walks on site connect right up. No issues at all. And they're suddenly on the internet doing what they need to do and connectivity is a second thought after that.
As supporting K-12 that you do, one of the things you're kind of, I want to say forced, but it's a legal requirement, is to have K-12 go through filters. Would there be any issue with this remote site also supporting whatever the filters are necessary?
So ultimately with EduRoam, in the K-12 space, we do have to have the filtered piece. Utah schools have been a little hesitant. There are schools that have decided to provide EduRoam willy-nilly, just let the students connect. And if they go to a university that's not filtered, they don't care as much. They care, but they care a little less because it's a personal device. If there's other schools that are handing out one-to-one devices where they're handing out an iPad or a laptop to the student, that device is already required to be filtered off-site. So when they go home or anywhere else, we're already filtering. And so if they're taking that device, it's already being tunneled back through a filter and providing filtering so the student doesn't have an issue. And so in that use case, the students wouldn't be an issue. When it comes to CBRS or these type of things, we actually are doing something super cool with that. With our private cellular network that we've been building, we have it all tunneled back to a virtual machine that's inside the school district. And so if a student connects to this private cellular network because of how our SIMs are set up and how it's all set up, the students connect to the private cellular network. All of their traffic is tunneled back to the school district, dropped off inside the school district, then goes out their web filter. And so it's as if they're in the school in that location. And that's something that private cellular allows us to do that is a lot harder to do with Wi-Fi. But it's a pretty cool little opportunity to help cover those issues. No matter where the student goes, they can go anywhere in the state, connect to this network, and they are filtered as if they're sitting in their school district.
Well, let's back up a little bit.
Okay.
You mentioned your first example, your foray into this was your Jeep. You now have a trailer with a rack and a 40-foot tower and a generator. What's the minimum you would need to build out a cow?
So ultimately, you can do it in your car. I was just talking with Drew Lentz, and he had one in his car in the back of his trunk. He was talking about doing really to do one that actually goes distance, you need a tower because of the Fresnel zones issues. With CBRS at 2 miles, you hit about 35 feet. So you need to be about 35 feet off the ground. So if you're doing it with CBRS, you kind of need a little bit better engineering than just, say, the back of a car. So that's where the cows, where it's a trailer or other vehicle.
If you just say you wanted to do this as a proof of concept, and you only needed to go quarter mile, half mile, you just happen to. So the Fresnel zone for CBRS on that would be sub 10 feet.
Yep. You definitely can go that far. I've done my Jeep. I haven't done extreme distance testing, but we did at the Salt Flats a couple years ago. We had a 15-foot pole.
And 15 feet in the Salt Flats is a long way.
Yeah, we got 2 miles.
Yeah.
It was hitting the Fresnel zone, so you were hitting the ground, but you could definitely get connectivity at 2 miles.
So what are the components you're looking at just to practice if someone wanted to try this out?
So you need power, either generator or using the battery off your car with a converter of some kind. So you need power, and then you need some type of backhaul, either cellular, Starlink, plugging in a physical wire to a network or something. But you need some type of backhaul if you're wanting to provide connectivity. If you have servers on site, obviously you don't need the backhaul. You can just do everything local. And then you need to select your medium, so private cellular or Wi-Fi or point-to-point links. All of those are viable options. You just have to choose which one fits your use case best. Are you going in one direction, trying to reach somewhere in one direction, point-to-point would work better for that. If you're just doing somewhere close by the cow, Wi-Fi works great. Private cellular reaches a little bit further. And so they all have their own little requirements, like private cellular requires a little bit more to set up than Wi-Fi with CPI, Certified Professional Installer requirements, and some other technical issue things. But at that point, you just have to decide on the technology, which fits best for the use case, and then you just either stand up an AP on a tripod, or you get some type of mount or pull or just stick it on the back of your car and you can broadcast and start broadcasting.
You mentioned a couple of times CBRS in education. What, in your role, has CBRS, that private LTE, and I'm mixing those two terms on purpose. Just I know we're in the United States right now, and CBRS is a U.S. thing, but private LTE. What are the use cases in education?
So the big use case that we found right from the get-go, the reason we started looking at this 10 years ago, was reaching students in the home, the homework gap.
Oh, this is what happens in COVID.
Yes. We had a couple sites that had towers pre-COVID, and when COVID hit, it became a big deal. And Murray City School District specifically got a lot of attention because of they had this built out, and a lot of schools have kind of copied and looked at the same idea. That has grown and changed. There's been a lot of build out with fiber trying to reach people in their homes, but there still are there are parents that, for one reason or another, can still not provide connectivity to their students, or the kids have to use the parents' phone when the parents are at work at night and the kids are unable to do homework at home. So that was our primary use case. It's what we've been building out for. Very success. We've used everywhere from licensed spectrum to CBRS. And
is mainly are you doing that to get the extra distance that CBRS allows over Wi-Fi? I mean, you could always just set up an AP on the roof and they have to come and park in the parking lot of the school.
We absolutely did that because that was a cheap route. We took APs out of the buildings and stuck them on the sides of buildings in the classrooms right next to the parking lots. And we actually had kids come sit in parking lots and do their homework during the day when stream their classroom in the middle of the day because they couldn't be in the building during COVID. CBRS provides it wherever they are. We're not extending internet. I need to make that distinction. We're extending the classroom. These networks are heavily filtered. Netflix, Disney Plus, these different streaming sites are not available. If the parents need that, we direct them to the carriers, to telcos, and say, here's your connectivity. Previously, there was programs for those that have kind of been going away with ACP, but that's where we direct parents at this point if they need more than just the extended classroom. We're not talking about high throughput networks. These networks are only to provide coverage for students to be able to do their homework in their homes.
How much of that homework? I've worked like you in the state of Utah and been in lots of classrooms where most of the teaching is done on iPads. Is that a local data, or they send them out? I mean, they need actual internet access to do their training. So
they typically need internet access. We're not completely cutting off the internet. We're providing there is internet connectivity there, but it's only networks that are or connectivity that is needed for classroom use. So access to one application we use is called Canvas, heavily used in the state of Utah. That's allowed. Watching YouTube is hit or miss depending upon the district. Some districts allow it, some don't because there is value there. It's a very filtered version of YouTube versus the public one that all of us can access daily on our phones.
Different than YouTube Kids.
Yes. Yeah, different than YouTube Kids. It's more of an education version of YouTube. Districts have hit or miss with how they're handling that type of stuff. And so it's more up to the district on what they're providing on the network. But as I said before, with how we have it engineered, the devices the kids are taking home are filtered by their school district no matter where they are. And so it fits the requirements of the school district. Whatever their district deems this is appropriate, the kids are allowed access to those stuff, whereas another district may say, I don't want YouTube allowed in my school or at my kids' homes, and so they completely block YouTube.
Let's back up one more time. Before you got into this and you built your first Jeep on wheels? No. Cell on Jeep, yeah. A Codge. What kind of training or certifications did you need to go through? So if someone wanted to practice this and build out their own and play with it, what was your educational process?
So I've been doing Wi-Fi since about 2007. So I've been on the Wi-Fi side of things. So I've known a little bit of the spectrum side from that. Not necessarily required, but a good background in RF is very, very helpful. To actually install a CBRS radio itself, you do need what's called the CPI, a Certified Professional Installer license. You have to go take a test. Not everybody that stands it up has to have it, but one person that authorizes the radio has to have the CPI certification. They put their name and their credentials that the radio was installed. This is the height and different things about the radio that they basically are saying this is where it's at. This is the height and everything. That's required before a radio can broadcast in CBRS.
On your Jeep, as you drove it around, did you have to go back and say, I'm now here? No, I'm over here now. Here's my current lawn.
I'd have to plan ahead. I'd be like, I'm going up to this site. I'm going to go test it right here. You have to kind of plan ahead and put in the data beforehand. You can put it in the moment of, but you may not get a grant as you expect. Some of the databases have a little bit of a delay. And so it's wise to actually say in the database saying, I'm taking my radio, I'm installing at this location. It's going to be this high off the ground, and put those data points in before. So it does take some planning. But once you do that, the radio should come online. You should be broadcasting and have no issues once you're on site.
So you took a class, and I have a couple blogs, and I'll put some links in the show notes for places you can take the CPI course. And then there's a CPI exam that comes along with it. You become CBI certified. You get your credentials. You get a digital certificate that then you can apply when you're using CBRS installs. So that's one process. How else did you learn?
There's also the C5S from CWMP. A couple years ago, Cellular, in partnership with CWMP.
Oh, Avril's class.
Avril's class, yeah. Put together this little course. It's 5G focused, a little bit Cellular focused, but it's kind of more, they try to keep it a little more generic. It's a great place to learn deeper about 5G, private cellular. It doesn't have the CPI, so you have to do the CPI and this. That CPI is the base that you have to do. And then this is just supplemental. On top of that, I've done a lot of reading. There's several free courses out there on a couple different sites. We'll put them in the show notes. But
additionally, every vendor who sells CBRS equipment has their own training as well.
They do. So, and then beyond that, just have basic background in networking. Understand how routers work and all those type of level. It doesn't have to be a deep level, but having some level of understanding of the networks is very beneficial when you're actually standing up one of these cows.
Well, today we've talked about cows, wows, COLTs, even flying. Have you ever tried on one of these on a drone?
I've actually been in talks with people. We haven't done it yet. I know there are people that have. I've been in chats talking about going to the Salt Flats and saying beforehand we're going to have it at 200 feet or whatever on a drone. One of the limits is these radios are pretty heavy, and so you have to get really beefy drones to be able to broadcast off of these. I know that's the weight of the radios is starting to come down, so we'll probably get some better models out there that we can actually stick on a drone.
And drones are getting bigger.
Yes, they are. Just like Peter McKenzie did with the Wi-Fi AP. There's a lot of interest in doing it. I just haven't had time to get the Salt Flats to do it.
It sounds like a fun project. I don't know how viable it is. Maybe if you can lift up a cable, you can keep the power indefinitely. Yeah. But it's fun. Well, a lot of these things we talked about today are fun. And if you're involved in wireless, whether it be Wi-Fi or IoT, private LTE, building up your own portable system is something you can do. Mark's done it for a couple of years now, and even up to the point of having a larger trailer-based system. But you can do it in your own car and take your own little cell hotspot with you wherever you want, a little bigger than a hotspot. Mark, thanks for your time today.
Hey, thanks, Keith.
You've been listening to Heavy Wireless, a Packet Pushers podcast, part of the network that they have going. We'd love to have you join us on future episodes, so stay tuned and subscribe to Heavy Wireless. Thank you.